Pharrell around when you were coming down? Did you
Yeah.
the Neptunes?
Yeah, I saw Pharrell. I didn't see him a lot because I think at that time, you know, I probably was catching Pharrell, right? Him and Chad, I think they finally were moving into their own studio space. They were still, but I would see them still come through and play beats for Teddy.
And you guys were probably around the same age or so. What was your impression seeing? Did you see them and think they're gonna make it the same way because the sounds were different?
Yeah, because we got actually me and Pharrell was cool. Like Pharrell would send me stuff. Actually, when I worked with Michael, I played Pharrell's beats for Michael. I tried to get Pharrell on Michael's album. So Pharrell sent me stuff, and the song Rock Your Body by Justin Timberlake, Pharrell gave me that to play for Michael. I played it for Michael, but Michael didn't want it because I think Michael was kind of more about, you know, track-wise in that time, in that space, he was really listening for the instrumentals, not necessarily the songs at first. But I definitely played his stuff for Michael.
Okay.
You know, Pharrell, very ambitious young man, came to the studio very often. And we kept running into each other. And one of the times we ran into each other, we exchanged numbers. And I already liked the stuff that they did, but I hadn't really heard a whole bunch of it. And one time he gave me a tape. Somebody gave us a ride home and we were all in the car together and he gave me the tape. And after that, that's when I started bugging Teddy. I was like, you got to sign these guys. They're really good, you know? And it took a couple of times. And then what happened was Pharrell, being the ambitious guy that he is, he started calling me up and we would get together. He would come to my house because Teddy's a very busy guy at this point. This is after Michael Jackson. I'm not even sure if this was the second album he did with Michael. I don't know. All I know, he was very, very busy. So although I was signed, I was waiting and I was about to do my project. The Neptunes, you know, were going to do some stuff for my project. And that's how Pharrell and Chad and I started working together, because we figured while we were waiting for Teddy to be ready for us, you know, ready for me first, because, you know, I was already there. But the point is that we started working together. And Teddy was aware. We started recording stuff in one of the other studio rooms. I think it was the A room, B room. I don't know. They had an A, B, C. I don't know which one is now. It's hard. It's a long time ago now, but we were recording in one of the other rooms there. You know what I mean? And we recorded a couple of songs. Teddy liked them. And, but then, you know, we were waiting, you know, and we were younger then. It was just very impatient, you know. And at some point, Pharrell just decided that we're going to go every day and go and create.
What about Chad and Pharrell? What was different about them?
Chad and Pharrell, what they brought in, it was just different. I didn't hear that, bro. Like, I don't know how y'all get that. And with Chad and Pharrell, they could take like you remember the group back in the 70s, the Fifth Dimension?
Okay, now.
With Marilyn McCool and her husband. There's a group called the Fifth Dimension. They was back in the 70s. One of their songs was, I forgot what soundtrack it was on, but they could take a Fifth Dimension sample and just make like a hit out of it. And you like, dude, I never would have expected that from. I probably would have skipped over that song if I was looking for something to sample. But when Pharrell and Chad bring to the studio, you'd be like, wow, I didn't hear that. And they were just different. They was different from what Teddy had, you know. So that's what they brought to the table. You know, they didn't have no big sounding kicks and no, you know, fat snares in their track. They just had like a vibe and a melody that would blow you away.
But then how come they didn't stay long? I mean, because they went to...
well, for some kids, they were smart too. They were real smart. They weren't gonna sit around and wait for Teddy now. The Neptunes had a whole project. Teddy actually signed the Neptunes. They were supposed to be the first group come out, and you know, one of the projects he put on the back burner, and Chad and Pharrell, they had bigger ideas, so they didn't hang around. Mike Etheridge hung around though, but he was the singer in the group. He hung around, tried to wait on Teddy, and nothing came out of that either. But Chad and Pharrell did the right thing. They bounced early. First sign of trouble, they bounced.
Darkchild, Rodney Jerkins, when he was at he said he used to come down to Future to intern.
Yeah, Virginia Beach.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Teddy probably kicking himself to it to this day. But Rodney came down. Rodney wanted I think like 17 grand a month. And when you think about it, it wasn't bad, but I'm glad. I think he glad Teddy turned him down. Teddy said, "I'm not paying him that much money." I don't know if that was Rodney figure or his manager came down with him, but
his dad. He said his dad said he wanted that much, and Teddy says no. And he's glad.
Yeah, but he, but I'm glad. I know he glad Teddy turned him down because he went somewhere else and got way more money. Yeah, I know Rodney well.
Okay.
I was standing outside talking to him. You're like, yeah, man. You're like, we gave Teddy the price, so we gonna see what he gonna say. The next day, I asked him. I was thinking to myself, I was like, man, Rodney get 17 a month. I mean, what? I mean, you give me but $5 grand a remix, and I do a remix once a month or once every 2 months. I said, that's just kicking your loyalty.
Yeah, so it would have
in the growing.
Yeah, it would be impossible for him to pay him that, and then how does he square up everyone else?
He could have paid him. He could have paid him that, but see, you got to realize, Rodney was gonna be doing some heat for him, and you gonna get way more than 17 a month from Rodney. Then you go get way more on the intake than you go get on the outtake. You pay him 17 grand a month, and Rodney do some A-list production for you. What you go sell for? Teddy was selling tracks for between 50 and 250,000 at the time. I would have worked harder.
Okay.
That's how I am. If Rodney had something I could have learned from, just like me and Teddy did. Teddy learned from me. I learned a lot from him. Mm-hmm. So if Rodney had something that I could have learned from him, I would have, sat down and talked to him, and that stuff like that make me work harder.
Yeah.
I ain't got no hate bone in my body. But then, if you that dude, I'm gonna let you know. You that dude.
They were saying, man, when Rodney came to the studio back then, they were hoping that you were going to join in because they would have pushed them back then, but they said no. It's between you and your dad, it didn't work out, which in the long run is better. But they were really impressed by what you brought, and they thought having the young energy and competition would have just taken them out of their comfort zone. Like, oh man, this kid's doing this, we need to up our game.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't intimidated. If anything, I was very confident in my abilities. But I was also very inspired by the guys that Teddy had around. I remember hearing, I think it was Roughneck by Light, and I think Mutual worked on that. Yeah. And I remember hearing it and I still to this day think that's one of the hardest mixes that came from Future sound recording that him and Teddy did. To this day, I still listen to that beat. Like, gosh, that beat is just like in your face, cutting, like just crushing you, and so I had nothing but respect for those guys. Spragg to me was a genius. You know what I mean? Because you got to remember, I was coming down when I could, right? Because I was still in school, so it would be summertime, go down there and come down. I remember when Teddy was working on the My Love remix for Mary J. Blige for Heavy D, and I was there watching him create it, and then I was watching, some of the remixes he was doing. I was watching Spragg, working on stuff. And then Teddy finished and stuff. I was like, man, like these guys are just like these guys are pros, you know what I mean? And I'm just a young kid, you know what I mean? And I was like just thrilled that they liked my stuff. But for me, like that was the 18, you know what I mean? And like you got to work your way up to get into that 18, that A room. You got to work your way into that. And so for me, it was just like I was just man, I was watching like a hawk. I really was. I would sit down and I was just studying, and I was taking it all in and understanding, like, yo, this is a chance for me to learn how to really make a real record, and to really to hopefully be something special in this industry. But I also, you know, at some point I also knew, like, as much as I loved being down there, and as much as I admired Teddy and the crew and everybody down there, I also knew I wanted to also be somewhat my own guy, my own leader, and build my own organization, you know, and find people like the same way Teddy had me, Pharrell. Eventually I would have people like D Mile and Harmony Samuels, and I would build my own thing like that. You know what I mean? And I kind of knew that. It's crazy. I kind of knew that at 16 years old. That was like the path for me.
You know, it just got to a point where we couldn't see eye to eye with the whole Future situation. You know what I mean? So that was one of the situations I walked away from again. And then, you know, myself and the Neptunes, we had locked in, you know what I'm saying, with each other. We began to just create, you know, we did a couple of compilation albums. We had one that was supposed to come out on, oh my God, on EMI, but then it didn't come out because the executives, I believe, who, you know, were gonna giving us the advance to do it and all that type of stuff. By the time the album was done, they weren't there anymore. You know,
it was the mergers.
Right, and you see what I'm saying? It'd be little things like that in the industry. This changed, that changed. Sometimes it's not just. A lot of times it's not always beef that people think it is. It's the music business part of the thing. You know what I mean? It's a whole nother side than just, you know, the music itself. So it didn't come out, but. None of this stuff is wasted. You know what I'm saying? When you're creating and doing, it's never wasted.
I think when you think of, you know, of Pharrell and Chad, you know, Tommy says Pharrell was the visionary. He started thinking ahead, and Chad just said, "Yeah, I'll just go along with whatever you do. I'll do the music and stuff."
Yeah. And that's what I was telling somebody the other day. I was like, like Pharrell has some help, like you said, visionary, and Chad played probably every night. Chad came in the studio with a different instrument. I was like, what? Man, it was like every night he came in with a different instrument. One night it was a trumpet, and next night it was a violin. But he played so many instruments. I was like, dude played everything. You thought Prince was talented. Man, wait till you meet Chad.
Wow.
And Chad played everything.
You know, early on, he had submitted a bunch of tracks to me, him and Chad. He submitted the tracks that he and Chad made together. And, you know, I referenced some of them, and that's how it all started. We just began to back and forth. You know, I taught them all I knew, and we worked in groups together, you know, and before I know it, I mean, in a matter of maybe 2 or 3 years, Pharrell, you know, had pretty much mastered the whole situation.
Wow. There was a song like played, turn off the lights. Was that one of the things you guys were doing early on?
That was the song that I did with the Neptunes, and actually that was done after Pharrell left Teddy and after I left Teddy in 1994. This is something that just Neptunes and Tammy Lucas. Sweet.